All the women fell for the Korean Mafia boss in his club, except the black bartender woman he really wanted. The bass thrummed through the walls of Club Juan, the kind of beat that made the floor vibrate and the city forget its sadness for a few hours. Neon lights washed the room in shades of crimson and molten gold, giving everyone inside a sinful glow. Women fixed their hair, whispered to their friends, adjusted their dresses strategically. They all knew Jin Wukong had arrived. He stepped through the crowd like a storm in a tailored black suit. Culture. Beautiful in a dangerous way. Every man stepped aside, every woman tried to catch his eye. Even those who had sworn they were done with men found themselves subconsciously turning toward him. He didn't look at any of them. He was walking straight toward the bar. And behind the bar stood the only woman in the entire building who didn't blush or freeze or gasp when she saw him. Amelie Ama Dlamini, the club's new bartender. Her deep brown skin glowed under the lights, her tight curls tied into a loose bun that revealed the curve of her neck. Silver hoops caught the light every time she moved. There was a strength in the way she stood, back straight, confident, shoulders relaxed, that made her more magnetic than anyone else in the club. She was wiping down the counter with deliberate focus, pretending not to feel the entire room shift when Jin Woo approached. Jin Woo rested one hand on the bar counter. Whiskey. Neat. Ama didn't jump, didn't flirt, didn't giggle like every other woman here would have. She poured the whiskey, slid the glass toward him and said calmly, "Long night." He blinked, almost surprised she spoke to him like a regular customer. "You could say that," Jin Woo murmured, leaning a little closer, studying her like she was a puzzle that finally interested him. Ama lifted an eyebrow. "You want me to listen to your problems too? That'll cost extra." A small, unexpected smirk tugged at Jinwoo's lips. "She's different." Most people in this club scrambled to impress him. Ama acted like she didn't want to waste her breath. He took the glass but didn't drink yet. "You're new." "Third night," she said, trying not to quit. "Because of the crowd?" "Because of the drama," she corrected. Her eyes flicked toward a cluster of women who were failing miserably to pretend they weren't watching Jinwoo. He followed her gaze and sighed. "They always like this?" "Only when you enter," she said flatly. That made him laugh, quiet, low, genuine. Women nearby gasped. Jin Wukong laughing? In the open? Ama, unfazed, reached for another glass. "You know, smiling won't kill you." "It might," Jin Woo said. "Especially tonight." Ama's expression didn't change, but there was amusement in her eyes. "So you can make jokes," she said dryly. Jin Woo studied her face, impressed by her steady voice, her calm confidence, the way she wasn't intimidated. "Do I not scare you?" he asked suddenly. Ama shrugged. "Should you?" He couldn't remember the last time he felt taken off guard. Women whispered behind him, wishing he'd look at them even once. But Jinwoo's gaze had narrowed on Ama like she was the only person in the room. Ama turned away to grab a towel. "You're blocking the POS system. Move an inch to the left." He blinked again. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't impressed. She didn't want anything from him. Jin Woo stepped aside slowly, but he didn't leave. He leaned an elbow against the bar, watching her efficiently prepare a mojito for another customer. Her hands moved gracefully, confidently, but there was something in her eyes. A quiet heaviness. A guardedness. He recognized it instantly. People with painful pasts always carried that shadow. Ama caught him staring and frowned. "Do you need something else?" "Yeah," Jin Woo said softly. "I need to know your name." Most women would melt hearing that tone from him. Ama didn't. "Why?" Jinwoo's lips curved slightly. "Because you're the first person in this building who hasn't tried to impress me." She paused. "I'm not trying to impress anyone." "That," he murmured, "is exactly what impresses me." Ama blinked once, her face unreadable. Then she sighed. "Ama," she said finally. "Amelie. But call me Ama." Jin Woo let her name roll off his tongue slowly, savoring it. Amelie, beautiful name. The way he said it made something in her chest tighten unexpectedly. Ama cleared her throat, stepping back. "Don't get used to it. I treat all customers the same." "Good," Jin Woo said. "Then I'll be here every night." Ama froze for half a second, but recovered quickly. "That's your choice." "It is," he said. "And I choose here." Her eyes met his for the first real time, and the air between them tightened instantly. Not lust. Not fear. Recognition. Curiosity. A spark neither expected. Ama broke the eye contact first, turning away deliberately. Jin Woo watched her move, watched her confidence, watched the way she carried herself like someone who had been through hell and rebuilt her own heart brick by brick. Women around him glared in jealousy. A few approached him, hoping for attention. He didn't even glance their way. Ama was the only one he saw, and for the first time in a long time. Jinwoo Kong felt something he hadn't felt for anyone. Interest. Real interest. Night 2. Club Huan pulsed with heat and perfume. The VIP lounge glittered with women wearing dresses that looked painted onto their skin, and every single one of them kept glancing at the bar, waiting. Not for drinks. For Jinwoo. And Jinwoo? He was already there, leaning against the counter like it belonged to him, eyes fixed on Amma like she was the only light in the room. Amma felt his stare even before she turned around. She sighed under her breath. Not again. She approached him with her bartender's towel over one shoulder. You're early. You noticed, Jinwoo said, and there was something warm in his voice that made Amma pretend she didn't hear it. You want the usual? I want, he said slowly, eyes following the curve of her jaw, for you to say my name once. Amma rolled her eyes. You want too much. He smiled, small, dangerous, soft. I'll take whatever you give. Women sitting at nearby tables watched with tight smiles and burning jealousy. Amma poured the whiskey and slid it across the bar. You should talk to them, she said, nodding toward the women behind him. I didn't come for them. Amma laughed under her breath. You're impossible. You bring that out of me. He said it like it was a fact, not a flirtation. Jealousy spark number 1. A woman in a shimmering silver dress, Rena, one of the VIP hostesses, strutted over and pressed her manicured hand onto Jinwoo's sleeve. Boss, you look tense tonight, she purred. Want me to help you relax? Jinwoo didn't even look at her hand. No. Rena blinked in disbelief. No, she repeated. Jinwoo's voice sharpened. I said no. People nearby froze. Amma wiped the counter calmly, refusing to react. But she couldn't stop the small smirk tugging at her mouth. Rena shot her a dirty look before flouncing off. Jinwoo leaned in. Did you just smile? No, Amma said too quickly. Yes, you did. I didn't. You did, he murmured, and it was for me. Amma clicked her tongue. You're imagining things. Then imagine with me, Jinwoo said softly, why you're the only one who tells me no. Amma stiffened. Her chest tightened. She didn't want him to see how close he was getting to her truth. She picked up another order and turned away. Maybe I'm just not interested. You're lying, Jinwoo said behind her, voice low and dangerous. And I don't know why, yet. An unexpected reveal. Amma placed drinks for another table, but when she looked back toward Jinwoo, he was still watching her. Not with a flirtatious smirk. Not with irritation. With focus. Concern. Curiosity. No one had looked at her like that in a long time. She swallowed and turned away again. Jealousy spark number 2. A group of foreign businessmen approached the bar, laughing loudly. One of them, tall and confident, leaned forward toward Amma. Hey beautiful. You new here? Amma forced a polite smile. Drink order? You, the man said boldly. Or your number. Before Amma could respond, Jinwoo was suddenly there, standing at her side, posture straight, shoulders tense. That seat's taken, Jinwoo said coldly. The businessman scoffed. By who? By me. Amma felt a shiver run down her spine. The man shrugged and walked away, annoyed. Amma glared at Jinwoo. You can't claim seats or people. I didn't claim you, Jinwoo said calmly. Just protected you. I don't need protecting. You shouldn't, he replied, eyes dropping to her lips. But I can't help it when it comes to you. Amma's breath caught, just for a second before she stepped back. You really need to stop staring at me. I will, Jinwoo replied softly. When I lose interest. And when is that? Never. His voice didn't shake. It didn't hesitate. It didn't sound like a line. It sounded like a promise he didn't plan to break. Amma looked away, pulse running hot and scared and confused. The moment that changes everything. Later in the night, Jinwoo stayed near the bar as Amma closed one of the shelves. The last song of the shift played softly, a slow beat. Jinwoo approached her again, quieter this time. You don't trust me. I don't trust men like you. Men like me? Powerful, dangerous, attractive. Rulers of the room. She took a breath. They always want more than they deserve. Jinwoo went still. His jaw tensed. His eyes gentled, something rare, something private. Amma, he said softly, if I ever want something from you, I'll earn it. Not demand it. Something flickered in her chest, fear mixed with warmth. Amma looked away. You're making this too complicated. No, he whispered. You're making me feel something I can't ignore. Amma froze. Her fingers tightened around an empty glass. Jinwoo stepped away, giving her space, not pushing. But as he walked toward the exit, he looked back at her once, his expression unreadable. You're the only woman in this city who says no to me, he murmured. And that's exactly why I'm coming back tomorrow. Amma watched him leave. And for the first time, Her heart didn't feel as guarded as before. The next night, Club Juan felt different. The music was still loud, the lights still wild, and the crowd still buzzing with alcohol and sweet perfume. But beneath all the glitter and noise, something darker simmered. Amma felt it the moment she stepped behind the bar, like the air was heavier, thicker, waiting for something to snap. She had just arranged the last row of glasses when Miho, Jinwoo's right-hand man, walked past the counter with a stiff posture. He didn't usually show emotion, but tonight his jaw was tight. Amma frowned. Something wrong? Miho paused, surprised she spoke to him at all. Nothing you need to worry about, he said. But his eyes flicked toward the door. Toward the entrance Jinwoo used. That told Amma everything. Jinwoo was expecting trouble. Jinwoo arrives, but not the same Jinwoo. When Jinwoo finally stepped into the club, the shift was immediate. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't flirting. He wasn't wearing that calm, confident aura he used to hide the darker parts of himself. Tonight he looked like the Mafia boss people whispered about. Cold, sharp, focused. A predator scanning for danger. But when he reached the bar and saw Amma, something in his expression softened, only for a second. You're here, he murmured. Working, Amma replied, watching him carefully. Are you okay? Jinwoo nodded, but Amma wasn't convinced. You seem tense. Jinwoo's eyes flicked toward the crowd. A storm is coming. Amma swallowed, trying to ignore the chill running down her spine. Before she could speak, he leaned closer, not flirtatious this time but protective. If anything happens, stay behind the bar. Amma frowned. I can take care of myself. I know, he said quietly. That's what scares me. Amma's breath caught. This wasn't the charming, teasing Jinwoo. This was the real man underneath, the man who had enemies, the man who carried danger like a shadow. And he was worried about her. The Iron Vipers enter. The music dipped for half a second, the kind of glitch that shouldn't happen. Lights flickered. A hush fell across one section of the club. Amma saw them first. A group of men in black biker jackets, tattoos snaking up their necks, expressions sharp with arrogance and malice. The Iron Vipers. She'd heard Miho mention them once, a rival gang that had been poking around Jinwoo's territory. Amma's voice was barely a whisper. Are you expecting trouble? Jinwoo didn't answer. He stepped closer, placing himself between Amma and the incoming group, like a shield without announcing it. Miho appeared at Jinwoo's side, whispering something too low for Amma to hear. But she could see Jinwoo's jaw clench. The Vipers walked in like they owned the place, taking a booth near the middle of the club, facing the bar, facing Jinwoo. One of them raised a glass mockingly in Jinwoo's direction. Jinwoo didn't react. But his hand slid just slightly behind his coat, where Amma knew he kept a knife. Amma felt her heart race. You need help? Jinwoo turned to her, and in his eyes was a blend of concern and resignation. No, he said quietly. You need to stay safe. Something in his tone made Amma bristle, not because he was commanding her but because he cared too much. I'm not leaving the bar unless the building collapses, she said. Jinwoo's gaze lingered on her for a long moment, like he wanted to fight with her, like he wanted to drag her out of the club and hide her somewhere safe, like he wanted to cup her face and tell her to trust him. But instead he exhaled and nodded. The tension builds. Amma kept working, but she felt Jinwoo's presence like a gravitational pull. He didn't move far from the bar. He kept scanning the room, watching the Vipers, watching her, switching between danger and softness. Rena, the VIP hostess, slinked over and forced a smile. Boss, you seem stressed. Want a drink? No, Jinwoo said without looking at her. Rena bit her lip, embarrassed, and Amma had to hide a small smirk. But the tension didn't fade. The Vipers were whispering, glancing at Jinwoo, laughing in low, taunting tones. Amma finally leaned forward and whispered to Jinwoo, if they're here for you, maybe you should go somewhere safer. Jinwoo's eyes snapped to hers, sharp but grateful. I'm not leaving you here with them roaming the floor. Amma froze. The intensity of his protectiveness hit her like heat. She tried to look unaffected. You don't have to protect me. Yes, Jinwoo said quietly. I do. He wasn't flirting. He wasn't trying to impress her. He meant it. She felt her pulse thudding in her throat. The first bottle shatters. Everything happened too fast. One of the Vipers suddenly stood, shouted something in Korean, and hurled a glass bottle toward the bar. It shattered against the counter inches from Amma's hand. She flinched, gasping, glass shards cutting the air like icy sparks. Before her brain could even catch up, Jinwoo grabbed her, pulling her behind him, shielding her completely. The club erupted into chaos. Amma's heart hammered, knees trembling, not from fear but from the way Jinwoo held her. His voice was low, deadly, controlled. Amma, stay behind me. You don't. He didn't even let her finish. I won't let them touch you. His words were iron. His body was a barrier. And for the first time, Amma realized something terrifying. She wasn't scared of the vipers. She was scared of how much she already cared about this dangerous man. The bottle had barely finished shattering when the entire club snapped into panic. Screams cut through the music. People scattered, pushing past each other, knocking over chairs and drinks as they ran toward the exits. Security tried to control the chaos, but the iron vipers were already on their feet, weapons out, grins sharp and cruel. Amma crouched instinctively as Jinwoo's body shielded hers. He didn't hesitate. He didn't check his surroundings. He moved faster than she had ever seen a man move, pure instinct, pure dominance, pure protection. Amma, Jinwoo said without looking back, voice low and dark. Stay behind me. I'm not. Behind. Me. There was no room for negotiation in his tone. Amma's breath caught. This wasn't Boss Jinwoo or Flirty Jinwoo. This was the real Jinwoo, the Mafia king whose name made dangerous men reconsider their decisions. The first attacker. One of the vipers rushed the bar with a broken bottle in hand. Amma gasped, Jinwoo? But Jinwoo had already moved. He grabbed the attacker's wrist mid-swing, twisted it sharply until the bottle dropped, and slammed the man's face into the counter with brutal efficiency. The man crumpled. Amma blinked. You're fast. Jinwoo glanced over his shoulder at her, chest rising with adrenaline. You haven't seen fast yet. Her stomach flipped. Why did danger look so good on him? Chaos erupts. Chairs flew. Tables overturned. A second viper lunged from the left. Amma down? Jinwoo barked. She dropped instantly, crouching behind the bar as Jinwoo caught the second attacker with a knee to the ribs and a hard elbow to the jaw. The viper went down. But another two were coming. Miho jumped in, tackling one to the floor and exchanging heavy punches. Jinwoo's other men appeared from the security corridor, forming a tight circle around the club's perimeter. Jinwoo positioned himself in front of Amma, blocking the danger with his own body even as he fought. Amma's voice was shaky. You shouldn't be doing this alone. Jinwoo kicked an attacker backward, sending him crashing into a table. I'm not alone. You're protecting me. I always will. The words slipped out, raw, unfiltered. Amma froze. Jinwoo didn't even realize he said it. He was too busy strangling a man who tried to reach over the bar. Amma fights back. Another viper ran toward the bar, jumping onto the counter with a roar. Jinwoo turned. But Amma was faster this time. She grabbed the heavy metal cocktail shaker from the shelf and swung it with all her strength. Clang. The man dropped like a felled tree. Jinwoo stared at her, stunned. Amma? Amma breathed hard. What? He was coming at you. A slow, impressed smirk spread across Jinwoo's lips. You're dangerous. You started it, she shot back. Even in chaos. Even with adrenaline rushing. Even with danger inches away. They still argued like fire and gasoline. And Jinwoo loved it. The leader steps in. A tall man with a snake tattoo across his neck, clearly the leader, stepped forward with a gun in hand. The room seemed to freeze. Amma's eyes widened. Jinwoo. Jinwoo moved in front of her so fast she didn't see him blur. He spread one arm back behind him, physically keeping her tucked behind his side. The leader sneered. Kong. You hiding behind a woman now? Jinwoo's smile was cold and lethal. I'm hiding you behind nothing. The man aimed the gun. Amma's heartbeat hammered. She grabbed Jinwoo's jacket instinctively. He didn't push her off. He didn't breathe. He waited for the opening. And Miho created it. A glass bottle smashed into the leader's face from the side, thrown by Miho with perfect aim. The leader staggered, firing a wild shot that hit a light fixture above. Sparks rained down. Jinwoo lunged. He slammed the leader against a column, elbowed the gun from his hand, and punched him until the man dropped unconscious. Silence flooded the club. Only Jinwoo's breathing filled Amma's ears. The aftermath. The remaining vipers fled as Jinwoo's men advanced. Miho wiped blood from his cheek and nodded. Boss, we're clear. Jinwoo didn't answer. He turned to Amma, finally letting the adrenaline slip from his eyes, and took her face gently between his palms, checking her for injuries. You're not hurt. His voice was tight. Too tight. I'm okay, Amma whispered. She wasn't sure if her knees were shaking from the fight or from the way his hands cradled her face. Jinwoo exhaled shakily and closed his eyes for half a second. Amma, if something happened to you? He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Amma swallowed. I'm okay, Jinwoo. Really? He opened his eyes again, and the way he looked at her made the world blur. Relief. Fear. Possession. Something deeper he wasn't ready to name. Amma, he said softly, I would have destroyed the entire city if you were hurt. Her breath hitched. The club was still in chaos, glass everywhere, people crying, lights flickering. But all Amma saw was him. And all he saw was her. The club smelled of spilled drink and expensive perfume, but the world outside the back door smelled of rain and hot asphalt, somehow cleaner. After the fight, the staff cleaned, patrons filed out, and the emergency lights hummed like distant thunder. Jin-woo insisted on making sure Amma got home. He had the look of a man who'd rather burn the city down than leave her in harm's way. Amma had resisted at first. "I'll be fine," she'd said, chin lifted, because that was easier than admitting her hands were still trembling. "You're not fine," Jin-woo replied, and there wasn't bravado in it, only a truth that landed like a small stone in her chest. "Trust me or don't. I'm not leaving." He drove in silence at first, the city lights a smear through the rain-slicked glass. The car smelled faintly of leather and his cologne, something warm under the chill of the night. Amma watched the road, watching him watch the road, both of them pretending the silence was nothing more than background noise. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than it had any right to be. "You were reckless," he said, not as an accusation but as an observation. "You shouldn't have been on the front line." "I wasn't on the front line," Amma muttered. "I was doing my job." "You shouldn't have to risk your life for a job," he said. "Especially not when you already carry enough." She glanced at him. "What do I carry?" He hesitated, thumb brushing the steering wheel. For once, Jin-woo seemed unsure how much to give. The kind of weight people wear when they've been hurt before. "You move like a woman who remembers pain and won't ask anyone to touch it." Amma wanted to snort and deny it, but her throat closed instead. She hadn't told him about the nights she'd slept with one eye open or the promises she'd vowed never to repeat. Yet here was a man, dangerous, implacable, who'd seen some part of her without her saying a single word. "Why do you care?" she asked, because curiosity was easier than admitting she wanted him to care. "Because you matter," Jin-woo said simply. "You matter more than this stupid building or my grudges or anyone else who thinks they can take what they want." Amma's laugh was small and brittle. "You sound like a speech." "Maybe," he admitted. "I sound like a man who's tired of pretending he's indifferent to something he's not." They drove through a quieter part of town. Rain made the world hush. Amma kept thinking of all the nights she'd told herself not to want more than the bar and a steady paycheck. She'd learned to live on small certainties. Jin-woo, of all men, was forcing a new question into that structure. What if she allowed someone to want her fiercely? At her gate, he stopped the car and turned off the engine. For a second neither of them moved, suspended in the tight pocket of the moment. "You could leave," Amma said. "And miss seeing you safe?" Jinwoo's mouth curved just a fraction. "Not an option." She opened the door, rain beating on her sleeves. He rose too, moving around the car before she could, as if he needed to stand between her and the world. He didn't reach for her the way other men reached, greedy and quick. Instead he reached as if he might break her if he wasn't careful, one hand near her elbow, the other steadying his breath. "You don't have to explain yourself to me," he said. "But if you ever need someone, say the word." Amma swallowed. Old training told her to keep distance. The new thing, the one that surprised her, was a want that wasn't just about being seen, it was about being kept. She thought of the way he'd moved in the club like a shield, the way his jaw had tightened when the Vipers came in, the way his voice had gone flat with worry afterward. "Why me?" she asked again, softer this time. "Because you're honest," he said. "Because you don't perform for me or for anyone. Because you make me want patience for the first time in my life." The words were unvarnished. They hit her in the hollow just beneath her ribs. Patience. Jin-woo, a man used to getting what he wanted with a signature or a threat, admitting he'd wait, that he'd earn something, felt impossible and somehow sacred all at once. She wanted to pull away. She wanted to tell herself 1,000 reasons why this would end badly. But when his fingers brushed the back of her hand, not possessive, not urgent, just an anchor, she didn't pull hers away. "And if I say no?" she asked, breathless. "Then I'll accept it," he said. "Not because I'm good at losing, because you already won my attention. But I won't pressure you." "Is that your promise?" Amma asked, half teasing, half terrified. "It's a promise." Jinwoo's voice was nearly a whisper. "Not always the kind I keep easily, but this one, I mean it." For a slow second they held each other's gaze, standing under the porch light while rain stitched silver across the world. The city felt very far away. The fight, the blood, the glass on the floor of Club Juan, those things lived on another street. Amma let herself imagine a softer world where a dangerous man could also be gentle. A less naive part of her wanted to lean in, a more practical part reminded her to be careful. She did something small and surprising. She let her fingers linger against his knuckles. Not enough to give him anything for free, but enough to say, "I see you. I hear you. I'm not running right now." Jinwoo's shoulders dipped in something like relief. He cleared his throat, the slight smile returning. "Come in tomorrow," he said with a tone that was equal parts command and invitation. "Or I'll come and make sure you do." Amma rolled her eyes but didn't move. You do that? Yes. I do a lot of things, he admitted. But for tonight, sleep. And Amma? Yeah. Don't pretend you don't feel this. She smiled despite herself. I won't, she said. Then, surprising them both, she leaned forward and pecked his cheek, quick, honest, and utterly hers. Jinwoo blinked, then laughed quietly, a sound that was almost like a promise. When she closed the door and turned the key, Amma stood for a moment in the dim hallway, feeling the echo of his words warm her skin. Outside, the city kept breathing. Inside, something that had been brittle and folded began to unfurl, slow and tentative as a flower finding light. The next evening, Club Huan pulsed with its usual heat. The low red lights, the heavy bass, the swirl of perfume and money. But Amma felt different stepping inside. Her steps were steady but her heartbeat was anything but. Last night's moment with Jinwoo still rested on her skin like an imprint she couldn't wash off. His voice, his hand, the way he'd promised patience like a man confessing a weakness. She walked behind the bar, busying herself with bottles and glasses, refusing to look around for him. Which meant, of course, he found her first. Amma. His voice always found her before his presence did, low, smooth, unmistakable. She turned slowly, pretending she wasn't already hyper-aware of him. Jinwoo stood there in a black tailored suit, no tie, shirt unbuttoned at the collar. Dangerous in the quiet way storms are dangerous before they break. He looked at her like she'd been missing for years. You came, he said. You told me to, she replied. He smirked lightly. If I told you to run into my arms, would you do that too? No, Amma said flatly. He chuckled, leaning on the counter. Good. I like you difficult. Before she could retort, a group of women noticed him. Asian socialites in short glitter dresses, regulars who always came for one reason, Jinwoo. They glided toward him like moths to fire. Boss Jinwoo, one giggled, touching his arm. You never come down here. Join us tonight? Another leaned closer. You've been hiding lately, we miss you. Amma stiffened. She turned away, focusing on her shaker, refusing to listen. But Jinwoo didn't entertain them. He barely looked at them. I'm busy, he said curtly. With what? They pouted. His eyes slid to Amma. With someone worth my time. Amma froze. The women followed his line of sight, to her, and instantly their smiles thinned. She could feel their judgmental stares burning into her back. One scoffed. The bartender? Jinwoo's voice dropped, ice cold. Watch your tone. The girl's face paled. Amma swallowed hard. Jinwoo, stop. Don't start trouble because of me. He stepped closer. I'm not starting anything. I'm ending disrespect. I don't need defending. I know. He stared at her. But I want to. Those last 3 words landed heavier than a threat. The interruption. Before Amma could respond, Seojin, Jinwoo's right-hand man, approached, whispering urgently in his ear. Jinwoo's expression shifted, hardening into something lethal. What happened? Amma asked. Nothing you need to worry about. I work here, she shot back. If something's going down in the club, it's outside business. But you're tense. Something's wrong. He hesitated. Just a flicker. A crack in the armor he wore everywhere except around her. The Vipers are shifting territory, he finally said. Tonight they're testing boundaries. Amma's stomach twisted. Are you in danger? He gave her a soft, almost sad smile. I'm always in danger, Amma. The question is whether you are. I'm fine, she said. No, his eyes scanned her face with quiet intensity. Because if anything happens to you, I'll burn this whole city down. That's the problem. Amma's breath caught. He looked away then as if he'd revealed too much. As if the truth embarrassed him. She reached out without thinking and touched his wrist, the barest brush, but he froze like she'd placed a hand over his heart. Jinwoo, she said gently, you can't protect me from everything. He turned back to her slowly. I don't want to protect everything. His voice dropped lower. I want to protect you. The words were not smooth. They were raw. Real. It scared her more than the gang tension outside. The moment they almost broke. A sudden shout erupted near the entrance. Jinwoo's men rushed that way. Jinwoo's posture straightened instantly, Predator taking position. Amma, he said, voice crisp now, Mafia boss cold, stay behind the bar. Jin. Please. That one soft word sliced through her defiance more effectively than any order could. She nodded. He reached out, gently cupping the side of her face. His thumb didn't even touch her skin fully, just hovered like he was afraid of crossing a line. Amma, he murmured, eyes flickering with something that looked dangerously close to fear, I need you to stay alive. You understand? Her throat tightened. Come back in one piece. A small smile tugged at his lips. For you. I will. Then he walked away, shoulders rigid, steps silent but deadly. Amma watched him disappear through the crowd. Her heartbeat wouldn't calm. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She wasn't afraid for herself. She was afraid for him. Which was the real danger, the kind she'd promised herself years ago never to feel again. But it was too late. Somewhere between the jealousy, the softness, the storm in his eyes, and the way he said her name like it was an anchor, she was already falling. And Jinwoo? He had already fallen first. The night air outside Club Huan was heavy with fog, clinging to the streets like an ominous veil. Inside, the club's pulsing lights and loud music were drowned out by the quiet tension that gripped the air. Amma couldn't stop thinking about what had happened earlier. Jinwoo's touch, his words, the way his eyes had burned with an intensity that made her feel both protected and trapped at the same time. The club was quieter now, most of the regulars gone home after a night of dancing and drinking. The last few stragglers were gathered at the bar, laughing lightly, but Amma's focus was elsewhere. Jinwoo hadn't returned. He'd gone out to handle the business with the Vipers, the gang that had been threatening to encroach on his territory. The club had emptied earlier than usual, and yet Jinwoo hadn't come back to check in. Was he safe? Amma stood behind the bar, wiping down the counter, though she wasn't paying attention to the motion. She could feel the weight of the hours pressing in on her, the sense of something terrible hanging in the air. Her mind kept returning to his face when he left. The quiet, controlled worry in his eyes that had been far more revealing than any of his usual cold masks. Jinwoo never showed vulnerability. Yet, in those moments with her, he had shown more of himself than anyone had ever seen. And it scared her. The tension grows. The front door creaked open, cutting through the quiet of the almost empty club. Amma's heart jumped and she turned quickly, only to see Seojin walking in, Jinwoo's trusted second in command. Seojin? She asked, trying to mask the tension in her voice. Where's Jinwoo? Seojin's expression was grim. He's tied up with the Vipers. I don't think he'll be back tonight. Amma felt a cold chill creep through her chest. Is he okay? They've been pushing. He's fine, Seojin interrupted, but his words didn't sound entirely convincing. But he's not in a good place. I think he's trying to handle this himself. Amma stiffened. He shouldn't do that. He needs backup. Seojin met her gaze. He doesn't listen to anyone except himself. You know how he is. She did. Jinwoo was used to taking the world on his own shoulders, believing that no one could help him with the weight of his empire. But Amma had seen through that. She knew the cracks in his armor, and it was killing her not to be able to help him. Before she could say anything else, her phone buzzed. Her heart skipped a beat when she saw the message. I'm okay. But don't wait up. Jinwoo. But something in the message felt off. There was no usual heat to his words. No touch of flirtation. No tease. Just a cold, detached statement. Amma felt the unease settle deeper in her chest. She wasn't going to sit idly by and wait for something bad to happen to him. She grabbed her jacket from behind the bar and threw it on quickly, the decision made in an instant. I'm going after him, she said to Seojin, her voice firm. Seojin's brows furrowed. Amma, don't. You can't just. I can, she snapped, cutting him off. Jinwoo won't come back unless someone drags him back. I'm not sitting here. Seojin hesitated, then sighed. I'll come with you. No, she said a little too quickly. You're not coming. He needs to know I can handle things on my own. Seojin opened his mouth to protest, but Amma was already out the door before he could say another word. The chase begins. The streets were slick from the rain earlier in the evening, the neon lights from the city flickering across the wet pavement like ghosts. Amma's heels clicked sharply against the sidewalk as she hurried down the street, her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't know where she was going, but somehow she felt the pull of him, an invisible thread that led her to places she had no business being. The farther she walked, the deeper the sense of unease grew. She could hear the distant sounds of traffic but no other voices, no other signs of life. Just silence and shadows. When she reached the corner of a quiet street, she saw something move in the shadows. Her pulse raced. A tall, broad-shouldered figure emerged from the darkness. It was Jinwoo. But something in his posture made her heart sink. He looked broken, weary. Like the weight of the world was literally crushing him, but he refused to let anyone help him carry it. Jinwoo's eyes flicked to her as she approached, his jaw clenching in that familiar, dangerous way. What are you doing here? He demanded, voice sharp but tired. I'm here to make sure you don't do something stupid, Amma said, her voice shaking with more emotion than she meant to reveal. You can't do this alone, Jinwoo. He didn't reply right away. Instead, he stood there, studying her like she was something foreign. Something he didn't know how to handle. You should be at the club, he finally said, his voice raw. You're not supposed to be here. I'm here because you're not fine. I know you're not. She took a step closer, the distance between them shrinking until there was nothing but the air that felt too thick to breathe. Jinwoo's hand twitched at his side, like he was holding himself back from pulling her away. "Amma, you don't get it. You're not safe here. I can't protect you." "I'm not afraid of you," she said quietly, her eyes searching his. "I'm not afraid of the danger around you. I'm afraid of losing you." The words hung in the air, suspended between them. The rawness in her voice cracked something inside him. For a moment, Jinwoo just stood there, staring at her like she was the only thing that mattered in the world. Then, without a word, he took a step forward and pulled her into his arms. She didn't hesitate. She melted against him, her breath shaking as she clung to him like he was the only thing anchoring her to reality. He buried his face in her hair, his voice rough as he whispered, "I don't know how to do this, Amma. How to do this with you." Her fingers dug into his coat, holding on tighter. "You don't have to know. Just don't shut me out." His arms tightened around her, a silent promise, and for a moment, the chaos of the world faded. It was just them. But reality didn't stay away for long. A distant sound broke through the stillness, footsteps approaching quickly, echoing through the narrow alley. Jinwoo's body tensed, his hold on Amma loosening as he pulled away slightly. His gaze sharpened, darkened. "Amma," he said urgently, "I need you to go. Now." Amma shook her head, eyes burning. "No. Not without you." He didn't argue. Instead, he grabbed her hand and tugged her behind him, leading her quickly down the alley, but she could feel the heavy weight of the danger closing in around them. The night hung heavy over the city, the neon glow reflecting off the wet streets like shards of glass. Club Juan had closed early, leaving the streets unusually quiet, almost too quiet. Amma's heels clicked sharply as she followed Jinwoo through a narrow alley. Her chest still raced from the events of the previous chapter. The chase, the fear, the undeniable closeness they'd shared in the dark. Jinwoo moved with his usual predator-like precision, every step controlled, silent, deadly. His hand occasionally brushed against hers as they navigated the alleys and backstreets, but neither let go, a silent acknowledgement of the trust growing between them. "You should be behind the bar," Jinwoo muttered, almost to himself. "Safe. Out of the storm." "And you?" Amma asked quietly. "You're the one walking straight into it." He glanced at her briefly, the dark curve of his jaw tense. "I've always been in the storm. You're the one I want to protect." The word struck her harder than any threat. She had always known he was dangerous, a man who controlled his empire with iron will. But beneath it, there was a heart that beat only for her. The confrontation. From the shadows the Iron Vipers emerged. 5 of them, faces masked in malice, weapons in hand. They blocked the alley like a wall of danger. Amma instinctively stepped back, but Jinwoo's stance shifted, every inch of him radiating lethal confidence. "You're persistent," one of them sneered, holding a knife. "Boss Kong. Thought you'd learned your lesson." Jinwoo's eyes narrowed. "I've learned nothing except that some things are mine, and some things don't deserve to survive the night." Amma felt the tension spike, her fingers tightening around the edge of his jacket. She wasn't afraid, not of him, not of them. She was afraid of what he would do if one of them touched her. The first Viper lunged. Jinwoo didn't hesitate. He moved like water and steel at the same time, a kick, a punch, a sweep that sent the man crashing into the wet brick wall. Amma's breath hitched, heart thundering not just from fear but from awe. He was terrifyingly precise, and all of it was to protect her. Another attacker charged from the left. Jinwoo grabbed a discarded metal pipe, swinging it with exact force to knock the man off his feet. Amma ducked instinctively, feeling his hand brush hers again, guiding her, grounding her. "You okay?" he asked over the chaos, voice low but sharp. "I'm fine," she shouted back, heart hammering. "Just, don't let them touch you." "I won't," he promised, eyes locking with hers for a fraction of a second. A promise made with every fiber of his being. The turning point. The leader of the Vipers, the one with the snake tattoo across his neck, stepped forward, gun raised. Amma's stomach sank. This was the moment Jinwoo had prepared for, the moment his patience and skill would be tested. Jinwoo didn't flinch. He stepped slightly in front of Amma, hands open but ready. "You've picked the wrong fight tonight," he said, his voice calm but edged with deadly authority. "This ends now." The man fired a shot, the bullet ricocheting off the brick beside Jinwoo's head. In a heartbeat, Jinwoo had disarmed him, throwing him to the ground, immobilizing him with a strength Amma had never seen matched. The remaining Vipers hesitated, glancing at their leader who was now unconscious on the wet alley floor. "Leave," Jinwoo growled. "And don't come back." They fled, disappearing into the night like shadows retreating from the sun. Amma exhaled slowly, adrenaline still racing. Jinwoo finally turned to her, breathing heavy, eyes darkened by the storm that had passed. "You're insane," she whispered. I'm careful, he corrected softly, brushing wet strands of hair from her face. But you. Amma, you shouldn't ever be caught in the crossfire again. The quiet after the storm. The alley was silent now, only the distant hum of the city audible. Jinwoo's hands remained lightly on her shoulders, grounding her in a way that made her knees weak. I thought I could handle danger, Amma said quietly, voice trembling. But not like this. Not with you in the middle of it. He leaned closer, forehead resting against hers. His voice was a whisper, intimate and dangerous. You're not just anyone, he murmured. I don't let anyone see this part of me. Not my enemies, not my men, not the world. Only you. Her chest tightened. The admission, the weight of it, settled around her like a warm cloak. I'm not leaving you, she whispered back. Not now, not ever. Jinwoo's lips brushed hers in a fleeting, gentle kiss, a soft claim full of promise. Not a declaration of possession but of trust and need. Amma's hands instinctively curled into his coat, holding on as if letting go would be impossible. I'm not letting go either, he said, voice husky. You're the only one I can't control, and I don't want to. For the first time, the danger, the fights, the chaos, all of it, seemed to fade. It was just Amma and Jinwoo. Two people in a storm, but finally, together. The city lights reflected off the wet pavement as they walked back toward the car, side by side. Neither spoke much. The silence was comfortable, full of unspoken understanding. Amma finally smiled, a quiet, relieved smile. You're impossible, she said. Jinwoo chuckled, leaning closer. I know. But now, you're the impossible part one care about. She laughed softly, a sound full of warmth and relief. And somewhere in the distance the city waited. But for now they had each other.